And lights out and away we go. Welcome to the live review of Miami Grand Prix 2022. It was an interesting race, obviously, it being Sunday night in the UK and in South Africa. So it's a bit of a weird time to watch Formula One, not in the afternoon, but it is what it is. Wasn't the worst race in the world, wasn't the best race in the world. Unfortunately, the wrong man won, but there you go. It is what it is. We move. And I'm joined by a wonderful panel, starting with Wayne. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I enjoyed the race. It was good to see star-studded out, and I think I'm going to have to be the moderator here because I actually do think Verstappen deserved it. But we're going to go through it, obviously, and then talk about my team's dismantle of luck today.
Yes, I mean it was. I think he deserved to win it. I just didn't want him to win it. There's a difference. Um, but it is what it is. And I'm also joined by a Max Verstappen fanboy himself, KJ. Surprisingly coming on when Max wins, yet when Max was third and qualifying yesterday, mysteriously was ghost.
Yeah, look, American times are crazy. I was very, very tired, fortunately, when qualifying took place. But it's like I told Matt, definitely a coincidence. But Max Verstappen still, he wins every race he started this season. So yeah, pretty happy. I'm not a Max Verstappen fan. I'm a Red Bull fan. You know, so let's keep it straight. Let's keep it simple. Other than that, yeah, very, very good. I'm very happy. Whatever insults the panel decides to throw at my team, deflect them, dodging them. I don't care. We won at the end of the day, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean you got the result. So as you said, that is all that matters at the end of the day. It is late, so my voice is a bit annoying. I had to watch the race while in the car, so I didn't have the best signal, but I got through the race, luckily. Um, and luckily got back in time to have this wonderful stream. Big up to all the people that are listening and tuning in right now. Make sure you smash the like button so we can get this stream out to as many people as possible and help out the channel. And make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss a stream or a video. So let's get into it. I mean, obviously, we'll start with kind of the retirees. We'll get them out of the way quite quickly, starting with Joe and you. Wayne, did you remember what the problem was? Because I didn't have sound at that point, so I don't know why he went out.
It something to do with like a gearbox, like overheating or something like that. He was started off well. He's getting some good overtaking some positions. I think he was just overtook Ricardo, I think at the time, and then he just got the problem. You can see his sound of his voice as well. He was really gutted because he felt like he had a good motor today and a good chance to get some points. And unfortunately, went he had to retire.
Yeah, I mean it was unfortunate. KJ, was it unfortunate? Obviously, he's had a few problems this season, but it's not really been his fault.
Yeah, I think he's trouble started in Bahrain, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but yeah, very unfortunate. He had a good start to the race. Um, yeah, definitely there was a gearbox issue. I'm not quite sure what lap it was that he went out of. I forgot. It was a surprise to me. I wasn't even focused as soon as it happened. But yeah, unfortunate for him. He hasn't had the best of luck this season. Um, but yeah, man, that's the nature of the game. Unfortunately for him, um, what um, what surprised me the most. Um, well, we'll talk about it later. The rest of the retirees, but yeah, unfortunately for him, man. Yeah, we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, and I mean I'll be waiting 5-6 minutes to mention of the other. We'll get straight into it. We won't let Wayne wait. But obviously, Lando Norris crashing out. Thanks to I don't know because I was like straight away I thought, oh, what's Gasly doing? He doesn't look concentrated. But then it was only a couple, I think it was 5 or 6 laps later, that they brought onto the screen that there was a radio message exactly when Lando was trying to pass. So therefore I go, well, that's not Gasly's fault. That's the team's fault for trying to talk to him when that's happening. Of course he's going to get distracted.
The team weren't trying to talk to him.
What?
See, there we go. See, first off, I'm not blaming Gasly. I'm going to be blaming Alonso. Believe it or not, because Alonso first off went in the corner with him, but Alonso went in late and lunged, hit the back wheel with Gasly. While that was happening, he was losing control. He didn't have the balance, and in that corner as he went, he was going wide. And he's trying to get out of the way of everyone. He's on the call they phoned him, say, look, talking to him, and he's gone, whoops. Because he felt a car hit him, and it was fortunately Lando Norris, because Lando had his way, but he didn't give him enough room, and he basically was going one way towards Lando. So he had no choice, and he's boom out. But fortunately, it's not just Alonso's fault; it's the team's fault as well, McLaren, because they brought Lando Norris in the wrong time, because they put him into the DRS train with the Haas's and the Aston Martin, and he shouldn't have been down so low. And if he weren't that low, you wouldn't have been in that situation. So, one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, while we're on the McLaren situation, obviously it wasn't a good race from you in general. I mean, Ricciardo not finishing that high at all, and having a poor race in general. What did you think of your race in general as a McLaren?
See, I love the circuit. I think the layout is really good. There's got to be bits to sort out, but I think the layout of the circuit is a good circuit. But unfortunately, McLaren looked very weak. Obviously, it shows that we haven't got the strength at the moment as other teams. And the Mercedes engine, like you was admit yourself, does look quite weak compared to the Ferrari and the Red Bull's engine, and it is a bit hard, but I think we'll get more opportunities in different races coming up, especially 2 races coming up. I think we've got a good chance of getting some points, but I just think this one just unfortunately didn't suit us.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I don't know, because it just, I mean, obviously in terms of going on to kind of, I'll go on to obviously Mercedes in a little bit, but I actually don't think overall the Mercedes was. I think we had quite good pace in general. There was a little bit of times where Hamilton had some weird laps and then suddenly dropped back a second, and it messed it all up. But Mercedes were comfortably kind of fifth, almost the third row, and at times, obviously with Perez's engine or power unit problem, there was potential to almost start picking up pace on them a little bit. Now, the question to that, I will get into it, is that track related, or is that, as I was speaking to you waiting in the beginning of the week, they mentioned a potential upgrade that if it works, if it improves the car, they think they fixed the problem and they'll put more on for the next races. We'll have to see, and we'll have to wait till Barcelona to see if that's the case, or whether it's just Miami's a good circuit and Mercedes should race there every week. But we'll see. KJ, what did you think of the Norris-Gasly incident and then just McLaren's form in general in the race?
Very unfortunate. Again, during that moment, I wasn't too focused on the incident. I believe Alonso pushed Gasly out of the race. I think it was due to Lando as well. I didn't quite see exactly how it happened, but from what I remember, that's how it happened. And Ocon's driving as well, man. Quite reckless, quite ignorant of Vettel and Schumacher. Definitely something that's what I more expected to happen in Miami with a lot of drivers. So yeah, I think Alonso and Ocon were the catalyst for that accident. Very reckless driving, very ignorance of the people surrounding them. Yeah, and it just led to an unfortunate accident, an accident that didn't need to happen. Um, and I think the reason why I wasn't even focusing was until that accident, there wasn't really a lot going on in the race, which goes to show you if you need an accident and a safety car to happen in your race, then you kind of need to rethink the precision of that race. But yeah, that accident could have been so much worse if Lando went straight into the wall. Or had the Aston Martin hit him. So he's a very, very lucky guy. Um, yeah. Very unfortunate. As for Mercedes, um, again, number one, I think Russell got very, very lucky. But we can see the Mercedes car is still not as great as it can be on the straights. There's still improvements that need to be had. I think this was a pretty much a race where certain circumstances played towards their favor. But I mean, they weren't the worst out there. Russell and Hamilton were getting a few good overtakes going in. But like I said, some circumstances kind of put into their favor. But for where they ended up, I think they had an amazing race weekend. This race, it kind of goes to show you that the upgrades that they had put in the car are working towards their favor. And yeah, I'm very interested. I made the comment that Russell isn't giving Hamilton any respect at all, which is good. I'm finally glad to see that there's a teammate that's not trying to sit and be second fiddle to Hamilton. And you can see very, very clear there was a lot of close incidents between the two of them. But yeah, I guess we just have to see how it goes. But yeah, I think it was a decent outing from Mercedes.
There you go. Typical streaming problems. Yeah, but we'll get into kind of Russell and Hamilton's individual performances a little bit later on, a bit detail. But yeah, I agree with you, KJ. I think it'll be interesting to see how we build on from this, and if it is a track or if it is upgrade related. Obviously, one more incident kind of happening towards the end of the race, and it's one of my favourite drivers in the whole wide world, Mick Schumacher. Being, for me, I think it's just a bit silly and naive, and Vettel obviously being the last sacrifice for it. Wayne, I saw you shaking your head. Do you disagree with me there?
I thought Mick had a really good race before that.
Yeah, but I mean, he was having a great race before that, but then in classic Mick style, ruins it.
I think there's a lot of people who've done that corner and mistimed it. A lot of people, and unfortunately, at that moment, I think was it Ocon was in front, and he went a bit wide on just before the start line. So Mick was behind him, got caught, and Vettel done what he normally does, gets past both of them. So while he's going, obviously DRS train, Mick had his DRS. He's tried to go past him to try and get his position back. Ghosted it a little bit wrong, and yet he did go inside of him. Yet I'm not going to sit here and say it's not Mick's fault, because it obviously is. But I think it's a driving incident. Can't sit there and say he purposely lunged in there and he didn't. I mean, I think it was a nice driving incident. Fortunately, he just blocked his wheels and went straight into Vettel. But I know you've got this thing with Mick and don't rate him, but I rate Mick Schumacher. I think he's a good driver. I think he's been very unlucky. He's had to deal with the Haas last year, but this year he's got Magnussen there, and he seems improved a hell of a lot. And I think he's improving week in, week out, and I think he's a good prospect for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I see a lot of problems in him, and I think that Schumacher name, you can see every time Sky mention him, it's almost that if that was a Stroll, if that was someone else, you wouldn't be praising him for that. I think he is a bit protected, which is natural. You're gonna, with that name, you're going to get a little bit protected. You're going to be respected because of the name. But I don't know. I don't. I think Haas have improved as a car this season, but I don't think it's. I don't think it's Mick so much that's improved. He's doing better, and he did do okay in this race, but he's got these stupid, silly mistakes in him, as Mazepin would have also when he was in the car. I mean, the pair of them were normally tripping over each other more than other people, but now it's spread into other people, and obviously Vettel was the casualty of that. KJ, obviously, you've seen me and Wayne are kind of disagreeing on Schumacher, which is natural. We do love to disagree, and we disagree nicely. We don't no hyperbole, no shouting or anything. What do you think of that? First of all, the incident, and then Mick Schumacher in general.
Yeah. I mean, even before then, it was just a slow series of accidents working against his favor. Yeah, the accident wasn't pretty. I mean, if I was Vettel, I'd be fuming. That it was a pretty serious collision. And I'm surprised. It's the FIA haven't really done a lot about it. It was more of a slap on the wrist and move on. But yeah, is it down to because it is Mick or something else? I don't know. But yeah, when you look at the footage from his point of view, it did look unfortunate. And it was Schumacher's best race until now. It's coming up on the points. But yeah, terrible incident. Around that corner, there was a blind spot as well. So it is one of those things. That's why I'm not really a fan of the track as much. But yeah, I still stand by what I said last time about him. I don't think he's good enough for F1. There's still a lot of growth that needs to happen before he can. He's costing Haas so much money at this point. That I think he's more of a liability now than anything. I'd be very, very surprised if he returns to F1 next season. Yeah, it doesn't look good from it. It actually kind of reminds me of Russell when he first got onto the grid. But the difference between him and Russell, you can see Russell, he was only getting better race after race. And Mick kind of seems like he's stuck in the same position. If it takes you up till now to kind of get your first points on the grid, what more does it say about you?
He still hasn't got his points on the grid yet.
He still hasn't got his points on the grid yet. Exactly. So, yeah, I'm gutted for him. I really am. But yeah, he's not ready, man. He's not ready. He's too many mistakes each race, and it's really costing him and it's hurting Haas a lot. So yeah, I don't have that much sympathy for him. There is potential. He needs to take a step back, and yeah, when he's ready, then cool. But for now, he's just not ready.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I think as me and Wayne were talking about yesterday, there's many drivers that are stuck in F2 at the moment that deserve to be in F1, but there are certain people, as it happens always in F1, there are money drivers that come in because they've got money, they've got family in the business, they've got family that have had legacies. That means that they come into the sport and naturally get a bit favoritized. But I agree with you. I think if he doesn't pick up very soon, I think you have Callum Eilert, who is there in the waiting. Considering this is a Ferrari engine team, it wouldn't surprise me if Haas and Ferrari would have a little deal to have him at the team, and then should Sainz or Leclerc some reason or another move on, it's one of the options they can come and bring back eventually, because Callum needs a seat.
I've got some news for you for that, because I've been doing some research today. Because how well he's been doing in IndyCar, major teams in IndyCar are actually looking into him for next season, be a full-time driver.
Interesting.
So he's got
that decision to make.
Yeah, and they're going to offer money. IndyCar's got a lot of money in there.
Yeah.
So it's a So that's how good Callum is. I think they've missed a trick with him,
Yeah.
not putting him in F1 when they had a chance. I can't see him coming back. If he gets the opportunity, I can't see him coming back.
Yeah, I think maybe it's going to be a thing where Ferrari are going to have to do some sort of deal to try and keep him in, maybe promising Haas some sort of package discount on engine, so then it means Haas can maybe pay a bit more. I don't know how finances of F1 works, unfortunately. I'm sure there's something they can arrange, but I think if they lose Callum Ilott, and I think if Formula One in general loses Callum Ilott from the sport, then I think it's going to be a bit of an issue going forward. But we do have a lot of young drivers that are currently in the races at the moment, so we can't complain too much. Going into kind of the lower classifications, obviously Latifi, Tsunoda, Stroll. I think there's not really much to talk about. They're uninspiring. Didn't really do too much. Obviously, Ricciardo finishing 11th in the end, which was, again, I think, as Wayne will tell you, partially due to some of the incidents that went on rather than him himself, but just missing out on the points. And then Alex Albon sneaking into the points. That Williams wasn't very good, Wayne, but he's managed to get another point, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think the safety cars really helped because I think, if I remember rightly, he didn't come in, so his tyres were warm, ready. So he was riding safely in, I think it was just behind Ricciardo, or just above front of Ricciardo, 1 or 2. And then obviously the incident happened with Vettel and Schumacher and Ocon and that. And he was behind all that and he got through, and luckily he was capitalised for the situation. But quickly going back to Ricciardo, again, I've got to keep saying this, but he started off really well, got a few positions, and then all of a sudden he started dropping off. And Haas went past him quite easy, but this is before the DRS was involved. It worries me because I've said this to you, and also I don't know if KJ knows this as well, but I love Ricciardo, but if he ain't going to start pulling his weight and doing something about his pace and proving that he can keep with Lando Norris, we've got to bring in Patty O'Ward, because I really do rate that guy. And I would love to see him racing in Formula One. Ricciardo's got that this season, and that's it for me. He's got to prove it. If he don't prove it by the season, he's got to go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you mentioned that kind of yesterday. I think today again highlights even more your point. KJ, obviously you wasn't on the stream yesterday. So we didn't really discuss your point on it. What do you think of Ricciardo in general at McLaren? Do you think his place is under threat at the end of the season? Should he not improve from what he's doing now?
I think his place is under threat everywhere he goes. I used to have so much hope for Danny Rick. I was such a big fan of his. But it kind of seems to me that he plays second fiddle whichever team he goes to, because he just can't keep up the pace. And we can see there's a big difference between him and Lando. He just cannot pick up the pace, especially in this car. This was really a circumstantial race. He got so lucky to finish 11th. And some people might look at it and think he drove brilliantly. I don't think he drove super terribly, but again, circumstances aided him massively. And he was able to finish within the points at least. But yeah, he isn't someone that's good enough, and I don't think he fits the mold of what McLaren is looking for currently. It's very, very clear that one driver is being pulled down by the other. And yeah, he just hasn't been effective ever since joining McLaren, if we're being honest. Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely better drivers out there that could take his place. But for now, man, I'm just annoyed by him, especially because I really do like him a lot. I think he's such a class guy.
I don't think there's anyone that can hate Danny Rick.
That's the thing. There's no one. He's such a good guy.
I just feel like, obviously, Kate, you're right. I'm obviously a McLaren fan, And when he signed, I was so happy. I was so looking forward to it. I was thinking, Danny Rick, experience he's got, the quality he's got, he must have still got pace because he does well. He was doing well for Renault when they at the end of it, and I thought, yeah, bring him in, can't wait. And he just didn't kick off, and then he had that little spurt in the middle with Lando when we had a good run, and he won the Italian Grand Prix, and I thought he can kick on again. And then the start of the season, he obviously had COVID and all that, and it's just literally again, he's been really bad again, and it's getting to the point for me. So I'm thinking Danny Rick is a great driver, but is he going to be one of those drivers like who's going to be in a lower team experience to lead the youngster up and give him experience like Vettel's doing now? Instead of, because he's just not. It seems like Lando's just gone way above him, even just as a leader, as in the team, and Ricardo's just that person who's just hanging down. And he just hasn't got that pace joining with him. What if he did? We wouldn't be having this discussion.
Yeah, definitely. It is a concern. It's just you look and go, well, where does he go after this? Because I don't see, unless he's going to seriously downgrade. I don't see any place for him, and I don't like. I would hate to see Danny Rick not in Formula One. I think that in terms of a character point of view, that's a big loss. No more shoeies, which would be. I just want to see one more shoey. Just come on, we need to see some shoeies. Get Ricardo somehow on the podium, which well, this McLaren, like the Mercedes, it's going down like Jay Sean. So I don't see that anytime soon. But there you go. Obviously, going into kind of ninth place, Alonso, again, typical Alonso performance, steady pace. The Alpine is a pretty good car this season. KJ, what do you think of that Alpine car? Obviously, we'll get into Ocon in a minute. But what did you think of Alonso's race and then the Alpine car in general?
Yeah, I thought Alonso had a pretty solid race. He's been very consistent this season, which is what I love. I'm such a big fan of Alonso. Always have been for such a very, very long time, and I'm glad to see that he's picked up such good form. Alpine have been doing very well this season, which is something that surprised me a lot. You can see it is quite a cohesive bond between the drivers. I think it's only going to get better from them. I'd love to see exactly what more upgrades are going to do to the car, because I do think it has potential to be leading that mid-table scrap. I'm just very impressed. I'm glad for Alonso, especially after last season, to just have him back and kind of just picking up form and being not in contention, but really just helping out Alpine. I think it's a team with a lot of great potential. I like the way the car looks. I like the way I like the way they race. I like. Oh, sorry, I'm sick. I just like the look of what they're going for. Solid stuff. Can't wait to see more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Wayne, what do you think of Alonso's race in general and the Alpine? Obviously, Alonso did have that incident. I, for some reason, can't remember who clipped him, but it was towards the beginning of the race.
Yeah, Hamilton.
Oh, was it Hamilton? Ah, yes, it was that whole incident. Yeah, I now remember. I was like, it was one. I thought like, it was not Russell, but yeah, go on.
He's the thing with Alonso. What I like, and I think we'll all can agree with, he's the Thiago Silva on Formula One. Age is not a matter for him. He's just literally still looks like he was 2003 racing against Schumacher. He's brilliant what he does, and he drives with a smile on his face. He gives him everything he's got in that car. He don't leave an inch out. If they can get that car and upgrade, like KJ said, they can easily beat Mercedes and McLaren as the third team in overall, because they've got a good system now at the club as a team with Otmar Savnav from Aston Martin coming over. He's now experienced leading. He's got a good head on there. Obviously, with Alonso and they've got a good relationship, of what I can sense. And with experience with Alonso's got, and Ocon's got experience now. I just think it's probably 5-6 seasons he's been in Formula One racing, and he's obviously been reserve driver as well. He's been at Mercedes, he's been at Force India. It's not like he's been nowhere. He's been places with good pedigree, and I think he's won a race as well for Alpine, if I remember rightly. Last season, did he win at Hungary?
I don't know. I thought he finished second.
It might have been second, but I thought he won. But
I know Ocon won a race for Alpine.
As I'm saying, I think Ocon's won the race for Alpine. As I'm trying to say is that so they've got winnings in them. But the thing is, it's like Alonso's just I can't like obviously McLaren. When he raced McLaren, I was so disappointed because when he was on form, he came over. I thought for him and Hamilton, I thought what a partnership that's going to be because Hamilton was just coming up, and it ended up being a
recipe for disaster.
Yeah, shall we say?
I mean, that proves you need sometimes you need a pair of drivers that at least get on. When they don't get on, that's when the fireworks start to go.
And then obviously he went back to Renault. And then he did end up coming to McLaren, end of Ferrari days, and then to McLaren. But when he went back to McLaren is when we had our worst spell as a team, and he could see he was trying his best.
I remember he was trying to get everything out of it, and it just wasn't happening.
And it was such. I felt so bad for him because you can see he wanted to make amends for what happened, and he was trying his best, but it just didn't work for him. But now he's come back into it, and you can see he's still got this pace, he's still got the energy. If you give him that car, he can. If you put him in a Red Bull or you put him in a Ferrari, I guarantee you this season he will have won a couple of races already. He's still a quality driver, and it's just one of those things. At the moment, it's just Alpine's just haven't got the as much as anyone else. But if they get the upgrade sorted, especially with the races coming up, because we all know Monaco, anything can happen. It depends on the weather. Spain, same. All depends. So he's got chances, and he's got chances some big points. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this season he's qualified in the top 10 near enough all the time except for once in the qualifying.
He's been there or thereabouts most of the time. I think he's had a couple of fifths, sixths. But yeah, I think Alpine's been one of the most obviously that mid pack is just so close between everyone. But I think Alpine's been one of the more consistent people in the top 10. I mean, arguably, if it wasn't for Ocon not participating, as we'll speak about Ocon in a second, Ocon could have gotten that top 10 as well, because Ocon has always been there or thereabouts as well, because I think that car is very consistent, unlike both of our cars, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Obviously, going into 8th place, and a man that ended up, if we're going to count where he was originally with the qualifying, made up 12 places. Thank you to the Aston Martin fuel thing, which we'll get into, because I think that is one of the most strangest things I've ever heard. Ludicrous. Whoever decided to do that too much needs to get sacked, but there you go. But yeah, making up 12 places, obviously, like Russell, was thankfully saved by a safety car. But KJ, what did you think of Ocon's, again, another great performance in terms of making up so many places?
Yeah. Before I speak on Ocon, I just forgot to mention this. Alonso totally got robbed with that 5-second penalty. I don't get it, because it was a similar incident to Mick. So I'm not quite sure on the ruling with that, especially when you look at the replays. It wasn't an intentional.
I think you either give it to both or none at all.
Yeah. So I don't understand complete injustice. But yeah, Ocon, P8, especially from the back of the grid, that's a masterclass in my eyes. Yeah, that was amazing. Very solid comeback. Great potential from the kid. Yeah. Again, I've always been a big fan of Ocon. I see the potential in him, and he just seems to be getting better and better as the seasons progress. Um, yeah, there's a few drivers like him. I can easily put him in the same um bracket as maybe Russell. Um, I think there's not really a lot of high risk when it comes to him. Um, just a very masterful display, very composed display. He never did anything outside of his range, and yeah, I'm happy for him. To start where he is in a track like this that's unfamiliar to you, where there's not a lot of room to overtake. Yeah, very impressed. P8. Yeah, solid drive.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think we can unanimously just say that Ocon, if you agree, guys, is our driver of the day before we get into it.
No,
Wayne, do you not agree?
no.
Ooh,
Keep in mind to the end.
we'll keep yours at the end. That's fair enough. I mean, I don't know who else it would be. Maybe Verstappen, but I mean, making up 12 places. I know the safety car did benefit him, but sometimes running your tyres that long is an achievement in itself, especially to keep up with pace as well, like Russell did,
But
for example.
I was surprised though because they put the soft tyres on, what is quite quick, but they couldn't do anything with it. Only reason why they got to 8th was because of the onside penalty. And that did surprise me because I thought they could have easily got past Hamilton
But I
and
don't know.
Bottas.
I just think with the softs, I don't think it's a good race tyre.
Mm,
Yeah, I agree.
Um, I think he would have been better putting the mediums on,
Mhm.
because probably you have 3 or 4 laps in that, and then they've kind of done. Whereas the
mm,
medium, and especially the hard as well. The hard was, as we saw with Russell at the beginning of the race, and probably Ocon as well. They were putting in good times, similar to the guys on the mediums. Um, so maybe it would have. Maybe it was one of them things. Maybe more of the drivers could have gone on the hards because it wasn't really any slower, which was nice to see. But yeah, we'll get into your driver of the day towards the end. Obviously, going into Valtteri Bottas, 7th place. Now, me and a certain other person that likes Formula One that we will not mention, he's been taking the mick. Oh, Lewis Hamilton behind Bottas, blah blah blah. Typical. And I was like, wait and see, because when shit hits the fan, Bottas will go, nope, don't want to get involved. As soon as it got to the point, Russell Hamilton battling with each other. What does Bottas do? Whoop, nope, I'm running wide. I don't want to get involved. I'll let you guys through. Safety first. Typical Bottas. Obviously, it was. I'm going to be honest now. It was a good race from him. Kept it into his position. Obviously, got unlucky with the safety car, overtaken by Russell and then eventually Hamilton as well. KJ, what did you think of Bottas's race? And do you agree with the funny little incident where he just happens to run wide when they're coming across to overtake him?
Yeah, no, he definitely told his team to keep him out. He didn't want no part of that. Um, but man, it makes me angry because I want him to be in that conversation, that scrap, because I do think, and it's a controversial one. I keep on saying it on Twitter, but I do think the wrong driver was dropped, but that's just because I'm just more of a fan of Bottas. No disrespect to Hamilton fans. I just he's such a technically gifted driver, and he's got so much more potential. It breaks my heart when I see him in racing situations like this where he can perform way better, and he could have performed way better than both Mercedes drivers. But yeah, it's weird. He refused to pit, and even when he came out, he would have been behind what you call it, Russell. Um, so it's oh wait, I'm mixing Bottas with Hamilton. Hamilton refused to pit, I believe. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things. He was robbed, man. But I mean, I guess that's just how it is. He, I don't know, man. I want to say he had a good race, but I know he could have done better. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
weird.
think that just that one bit lets him down, unfortunately.
It
Which
really
again,
is.
he got put in that position because of the safety car, which is unfortunate. But it's just I always find with Bottas, he's a good driver, and he was a good second driver because he's very consistent with his laps. You don't really see him make too many mistakes in general. But I find when shit hits the fan, he doesn't like to be involved too much.
Yeah,
I think he goes safety first, and I find when you're competing at the creme de la creme, you need to have fight. You need to have a bit of bottle to stick it in. And I've always found when that's happened, Bottas has almost hidden out. Now that could be different. It might be that just the Mercedes drive was maybe a bit more of a I don't maybe it was he didn't feel comfortable in it. But and maybe it will suit him being in a smaller team where he can get the best out of the car and do it that way. But I've just always found when the pressure is on, he's not stepped up like a Perez does. For example, when if we go back to the infamous Abu Dhabi, Perez kept Lewis Hamilton behind him for a good 3-4 laps, which in the end made a fair bit of difference, taking out the human error part. And that's what you need to do as a second driver sometimes is hold up the main driver, the main rival of the other team. And I haven't seen Bottas do that enough. And there's times where, again, we'll be in a situation where he's going to overtake someone. You think, right, he's going to overtake him now. 20 laps later, still behind that exact same driver. And that was in the Mercedes car where I know it was hard to follow sometimes in that car, but you get frustrated when you get stuck behind a smaller driver like that, and you're just like, come on, just eventually you're going to need to take a risk and lunge in at some point, which he just never did, which is fine being a safety first driver, but sometimes you got to make that move sometimes. Otherwise, there's no point you being there. If that's me being a bit harsh, but yeah, that's just frustrations of a few years of Bottas in the car, and the last year did frustrate me a little bit. I felt he didn't do his job well enough to help out Hamilton a little bit at times. But Wayne, we'll move into you. Do you agree with me, or am I talking a load of rubbish?
Load of rubbish. No, I can see your point because he hasn't got the killer instinct as a champion. That's the thing with Bottas. He can win races, but to win championship, he hasn't got that. He hasn't got the killer instinct that he'd do anything to get that title. But other drivers obviously would do that, even when it comes to sticky situations. But with me, I don't know if you two agree. When he got given this opportunity to race for Mercedes, I wasn't surprised because of how well he did for Williams. I wasn't surprised he got the opportunity. I know there's a lot of people was surprised with the decision when he got the first call out, but I think with him, he's a very good, like we've said, he's a very good driver for a low like speed time team like Williams, Alpha Tauri, Alfa Romeo, doing really well for them and producing bits for what they. Let's be honest, Joe's done nothing all season. Bottas has been up there. If he had a partner, Alfa Romeo would be up there for the middle table mark at the moment. He's been consistent, and I think he's just unfortunate. He's never going to be that champion of the world, but he always will be a champion in my eyes because he's not just because he runs races, but it's just how he is as well. how he goes about things. He's not arrogant. He's not like, yeah, I am the best, or yeah, I know I'm this or that. He'll always go out and help someone. He always, every time he said to, you can hear him, what can I do to help Hamilton? Is there something I can do to help him when he won championships? And that's someone you want in your team.
Yeah, I agree to a point. I think I wasn't very. I think maybe this is coming from a more of an inside Mercedes team view. I wasn't surprised. I think with the fallout of Lewis Rosberg of that season, I think a lot of Mercedes fans were very happy, and I think the team were very happy to have someone that wasn't necessarily going to fall out with Lewis and do certain things that Rosberg was doing in that season. And I think a more of a, again, as you would say, the primary driver and then almost a safety driver as kind of, I don't want to be rude to Perez, but as Max and Perez work, it's Max who is the aggressive primary driver. Perez is great. I don't get wrong, great driver. I'm not trying to put him down, but is again that consistent second runner that will always try and get you points. Is always there or thereabouts. Maybe again, I think the difference is he has more of a killer instinct than Bottas, and that's why I think he's personally the better driver. But yeah, I understand that. I understand why the move happened. I just don't think. I think you do need a little bit of balance of that safety first, but at the times you do for yourself need to have a bit of killer instinct. I think Bottas can find that in his game. He becomes a much better driver. But I think when it comes to the big time, I think it almost drops out a little bit for him. Obviously, going into now 5th and 6th, my two boys, Hamilton and Russell. As we said before, we kind of covered generally Mercedes. I think in terms of Hamilton and Russell had some good pace. Was slowly making his way through. I think hard tyres, it does take you 4 or 5 laps to get into the tyres. But once he got into them, he was putting in some good laps, slowly starting to get through. Hamilton, again, frustrated me a little bit, not going to lie. It was times that obviously he got through Alonso, Gasly quite easily, which I thought, oh no, don't be stuck behind Gasly for another 40 laps like Imola. But managed to get past him. I thought, all right, and he started catching up to Bottas. Got to about 1.9 seconds, and then suddenly loses a second on a lap. Now it was not covered on Sky, so I don't know. Did he lock up? I assume he locked up because he locked up a couple of times. Obviously going into the first corner, which that was a bit unlucky. I think that was for Hamilton. That was a bit wrong place, wrong time. Perez was there. He was going in too fast. Had to lock up, and then that lost places. I think if that didn't happen, I think he might have actually got past Bottas. I think he was either neck and neck or ahead going into that first corner. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens on the start. But yeah, there was a couple of times where he just suddenly lost a second. You're like, well, where's that come from? So I assume it's a lock up and probably not a significant enough lock up for them to look at. But yeah, obviously come back, got 6th place. I mean, I'm not too unhappy with that. There wasn't really I remember Wayne, me and you were talking about him possibly getting a podium if anything happened up with the big boys, but unfortunately it wasn't that kind of race. So 5th and 6th. Do you think that's job done for Mercedes? And what did you think of Hamilton just suddenly doing well and then dropping back? Do you think that was more of a lock-up kind of thing, or?
Mercedes had a good race for me as a team. Qualifying weren't great for them, let's be honest, especially with Russell. I think they did a really good decision with Russell, keeping them in, getting them points. But Hamilton, he just couldn't get on with the tyres. When he went on to the hards, he straight away, you can see he weren't enjoying it. He said straight away they was burning and it was too hot to really go in, and that was in a couple of laps in. He was just not enjoying the tyres as much as Russell. And so I think it shows a different style of racing. That's why I think Russell's being more effective at the moment, because he's probably more use tyres better than Hamilton. But I think, to be honest, after the 3 practices, the promise of Mercedes I thought was really, really good, and I thought Mercedes could have a chance on the podium, both drivers. I really did think that, but I don't know where it all went wrong. But with qualifying, but they recovered it in the race and was solid, and that's what you need at the moment: a solid results for both drivers. And with Spain being a really good track really for Mercedes, and upgrades could come more, upgrades could become for that. I think it was a good little race, and it could be a start now to start fighting back the corner and points and closing that gap on the top 2.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think the qualifying, as we kind of said, I think it was just you had to almost get that car together for the whole lap. What if you did? It was a good time, as Hamilton showed at times. Russell just couldn't get it together, and obviously that's why he was further back. But yeah, I think it's okay. I think we mentioned obviously the pit stop. From what I gathered, it was Mercedes almost hesitated at first, and then they asked him on the radio for the second time, and then it was kind of like, well, you decide. I mean, I think he rather have kept position. I think at that point there was no point doing it on the second time because he's already behind the safety car queue. You're going to lose many more than a couple of places at that point. So I think at that point you should have stayed in it. But I really do get that sometimes with Mercedes, and I don't know why it frustrates me when you're a big team and you hesitate with strategy sometimes. Like for me, you straight away should have been pitting him in on that. Because obviously you can't pit him straight away with Russell because obviously they were right next to each other. So Russell went in first, but that lap after they didn't. They went out and then they went back in. I was like, well, why are you going back in? What's the point? Like I get you bluff people from behind, but there was not really anyone to bluff, if I'm honest. KJ, I'll start with you. Did you think that was a bit weird, the whole double bluff kind of thing that went on, and then eventually Hamilton stayed out?
Yeah, that was a complete clownery on Mercedes' part. I don't know what the technicians were doing. I don't even know why they gave him the choice. They have all the data. They have all the information. They ultimately should make the choice whether he should go out or in or just stay in. Yeah, to kind of give him the choice and not just give him the information as to why he needs to pit, kind of just, it makes no sense. So it was a failure on their part. I thought that was very weird. I'm pretty sure he was as clueless as everyone else was. Hamilton just wasn't in the know. They weren't really.
I think even he said, he was like, "Why are you asking me this decision? Surely you guys know better." I'm just like,
exactly.
well, that's what everyone else is thinking.
Exactly. Which is why I'm sure from his side, he was even confused on the strategy. So yeah, whether it was an attempt at a double bluff or just to straight up confuse no one, because he did, there was just no one there was no one around him.
It's almost like they're bluffing themselves.
It really was. That's what it looked like. It was a bit of an odd one. They really let Hamilton down. I think he could have had a way better race, but I mean, all things considered, qualifying wasn't as good as Wayne said. So to kind of get into the positions 5th and 6th, I think that's as good as they probably were going to get this whole race, because when you look at the drivers that were above them, they were just on a league of their own. I think Hamilton, he did as well as he could. The new upgrades obviously came in, and they were showing a bit more promise. I think Mercedes fans kind of overhyped the upgrades of the car. I didn't see them breaking into any podium finish, not yet. I think there's still a lot more you need to figure out with the car, especially on straights as well. The car is still jumping a bit. There's still something you need to fix. But yeah, it wasn't Hamilton's day again. But when you compare these results here from what we've seen through the season so far, I'm sure he'll take it. But yeah, decent race from him.
Yeah, I think on the upgrades thing, I think the idea of it was, the idea was from what Mercedes kind of briefed out was that this is kind of the initial upgrade, so it's a small part of the upgrade that they're testing out to see if it would improve the car or not. And they say if it does improve the car, they think they'll know, they said they almost know what's wrong with the car, and then there's further upgrades that they will put in for Spain and Monaco to almost do the full upgrades. So I think that's where Mercedes are coming from. Well, if these upgrades work, then we're going to hopefully see a bit more further improvement, which will apparently, they said, will close a challenge with Ferrari and Red Bull. The question is how much, because obviously, naturally, you guys are going to improve as well. It's not like you're going to sit there on your laurels and not upgrade your car either. So we'll have to wait and see if we can get any closer to you guys. I don't expect us to be winning anything this season. I think we're too late for that. If we can disrupt you guys a little bit and improve going into the end of the season, and then almost look for next season, then that's the way I think we're going to have to go. Well, hopefully we can almost stop Max from winning the title. That's all I'm asking. Help out Charles get his first title, and then we'll leave it at that. We'll move. Wayne, obviously, do you think we've kind of spoke a little bit about the upgrades? Do you think it's look up for Mercedes, or do you think be a bit cautious at the moment?
I'm still in a cautious phase because, like I said, in the pre-practice, I thought Mercedes was back. I did think that because obviously I watch it from day one to day dot, always have done. But it's just you can see when it comes to crunch, there's still something missing there. So I'm not going to judge anything till I see it in my front value and knowing it's really happening. But it's improvements, but maybe not the improvements enough yet to be, say, they're back in the contention. So.
Yeah, that's I think we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I like the fact that there's positive signs, so hopefully that can go forward. I'm going to be optimistic because there's no point of being negative in this life. Obviously, Chelsea men, in terms of the football, make us negative, so I might as well be a bit more positive about this situation because I think this one's a bit more fixable than the other. But it is what it is. Obviously, we're now moving into the big two teams, starting with KJ, your boy Sergio. It was a bit of a poor race for him, but very I can't think of the word now. Unlucky for him. Obviously, the power issue kind of ruined his race, didn't it?
Yeah, and you know what? I tweeted about it before the race. I just had a feeling it was going to be an issue. Yeah, very unfortunate from him. When you look at the race as a whole, he wasn't too far off the pace. He wasn't too far off third. I think until the power issue started settling in, he was almost less than a second away from Sainz. He kept the pace very, very well. But yeah, power issue kicked in. He was then 7 seconds behind Sainz, and it kind of was just that the whole race. I think his saving grace, or the saving grace, obviously for Red Bull, is on the straights. They're the fastest car by far. I don't know why they're so fast in the straights, but it's definitely been the saving grace for our season. We'll talk about exactly how Max utilizes the car in the straights very well, effectively. But yeah, Perez, he could have had a better race, but yeah, unfortunately, the car just let him down. I think he could have finished third, given the power issue. But yeah, that's just unfortunate from him. He still had a solid race at the end of the day. He didn't give up the position. He kept Russell and Hamilton off his back for as long as he could, and as soon as the issue was sorted, he was back up there. But yeah, Gutted for him, but I'm happy he finished P4. That's the best he could have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, considering the issues, obviously. Um, I forgot what I was going to say now. I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. I think from what I heard from the pre-analysis, I think Wayne might have picked this up as well. Obviously, watching it. I think the idea was that there was the setup. The Red Bull had much less downforce on the car, which then allowed them to be much faster in the straights, whereas Ferrari had putting in a bit more downforce, so they're better in the corners. Obviously, I think in this situation, there's actually I didn't think the straights were that big at first, but then when watching it in the race, I was like, actually no, these straights are actually much bigger than I thought. So obviously, it did just benefit the Red Bulls. I think once you got out in front, you just even with the DRS, you see Leclerc couldn't just he'd almost it'd negate it, which was unfortunate. He tried his best, worked so hard even at the end, but couldn't get it, and that's what eventually gave Max the win. KJ, what did you think? Unlucky Perez as well with that power unit problem.
Yeah, definitely unlucky. But as you mentioned, I never expected the straights to be as good. I think that they were probably the most exciting part of the race. As soon as you were out that little section, it kind of became dull. But yeah, what was I going to say? I've lost my train of thought as well.
Too late for both of you.
Yeah, it's like these late races, man. They get you to a place. But I did want to comment on science a bit. I mentioned wow, I'm even forgetting my drivers' names. I mentioned Perez was going to be good. Perez was going to be third. But I'm just analyzing his race now, and he actually had a very decent race. I don't know if it was just me, but he didn't have too much of a dissimilar race to Leclerc. Maybe that was me. But yeah, it was quite a close from second. Well, obviously for the power races, fourth. They were pretty close together, no?
Yeah, they were quite close.
They were quite close. I think it was like a 2-second gap between both of them. So yeah, very similar race. I think any one of those three races, three drivers, could have finished in different spots. But yeah, I will credit Miami for, I guess, having the fastest straights so far this season. I think their straights are good for exciting overtakes before you get into turn is it turn 11 before you get into turn 11.
Yeah. I suppose turn 16 as well.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, solid stuff. I won't lie, I'm very impressed with Sainz. I think he's having a cracking season. He definitely can do better. But yeah, he's been solid for me.
Definitely. I mean, Wayne, what did you think of the Ferrari's performance? Did you think it was a bit at the end a bit lackluster from the car? Obviously, I think you could see Leclerc was putting in everything for it, but the cars didn't have enough today.
No, it's just one of those things. I think the circuit suited Verstappen and more than they did for the Ferrari boys, Leclerc and Sainz. But I always give it to one person, and that's Adam Newey. There's no one better than him, and he designed that car so well, and he knows what he's doing. And you can see when they was in free practice, when first off Verstappen had a gearbox issue, he looked at it and he realised what he needs to be done for the circuit, and he just nailed it from there on. And yeah, it's just I personally think Ferrari did well. They couldn't do any more than they did, has done a good team performance. They've got the points in. Sainz finished the race without crashing. So,
That's
all
a
good.
bonus after the last few races. But yeah, I
Definitely.
mean, obviously getting towards the end of the show, and we obviously have one more driver to speak about. Go on, KJ. Release the inner Max Verstappen celebration.
Super Max. No, man, I wouldn't gas him up too much. I think it was I think it was a very solid drive. I mean, he had a great start. His takeoffs are amazing. Every race he gets into, he starts very, very well. He made a very good overtake. He got into second, and then from there, really was keeping the place from Leclerc. I think he couldn't shake him off. And as soon as he got into the straight, had the overtake. I think it was lap 19 or so, somewhere there. And then from there, it was really just a straight shot from him. Consistent driving from him as always. He's the fastest on the grid. Yeah, there's nothing more I can say. Very impressed with him. Obviously, setbacks at the start of the season, but that really didn't diminish anything from him. They've really nailed down the car, and all credit to the driver, man. Max really hasn't let his foot off the pedal. So yeah, Sadiq always says his win is a fluke, which is not. He's just an excellent driver. He doubts he'll win again. I say he will. Yeah, I just don't see anyone better than him currently. Leclerc, obviously, you could say he's his main competitor this season. But when you just look at it, he got the fastest lap as well. He just really knows how to utilize the RB18. And it goes to show you, man, the fastest guy on the grid. And I'm happy.
Yeah, reluctantly, I have to agree with you, and we'll just kind of leave it there for that. Wayne, what did you think of Max's performance? Quite easy for him in the end.
He just was. I think like they Martin Brundle and Dave Croft said, and he's for such a young guy, he's got a lot of old shoulders on him, a mature head, and that's what he drove. He knew he had the car in him. He just had to be patient, take his opportunity, and he knew all he had to do was rely on a team that had his back, and he will win the race, and it proved it. And it's to watch it, and it's like when we was watching Lewis when he started. You knew you had something special when watching someone race, and you knew, and that's the same thing with Max. Differences between everyone else, and fortunately, Max has got heat from fans, for being a bit jealous fans of what happened last year, but it wasn't his fault. Let's be honest, it wasn't his fault. He did the driving, he didn't do anything else. And unfortunately, you got to respect the drivers and respect the talent, and that's what you got to do with him.
Come on.
In the words of the special one, I prefer not to speak. If I may be in trouble. I mean, I accept he has good potential.
What?
But come on, Charles Leclerc, let's get the world championship this season. Snatch it off the human era champion. Let's go. But it is what it is. I mean, yeah, he had a good race today. Was in control, great overtake in the first corner, and just did the business. Fair enough. Can't complain. Can't say anything else. I'll give him the credit for that at least, because I'm not completely biased. Only a slight little bit. But obviously moving into kind of obviously KJ, me and you said obviously Ocon for driver of the day. Wayne, go on. Who's your pick for the driver of the day?
For me, it's Russell.
What?
The reason why is because no, not because of that. The reason why is because he started off very poorly. The tyres weren't good. He dropped down to, I think it was 16th position or something like that. And he was struggling. And you can see that. And he just hanged on. He believed in the team. He believed in what they was doing. And all of a sudden, after the pits, he was obviously going forward. And he was still bringing the pace. He brought the pace in. He held his position. And then also, the luck came in with the thing. But if you heard it just before when he did it, when he said that, let's hang it in, let's wait for a safety car, virtual safety car, and then we come in. But this keeps going. I've got this, and that shows for me. It was just what a drive he did today, and it just showed so much maturity in his first season with Mercedes, and he's at the moment overshadowing Lewis by a mile, and it's just good to see.
Yeah, I mean, I will say he got a bit. I'm not going to say he overshadowed him today because I think Lewis did well in general. Obviously, the safety car did help out Russell a little bit, but I'll give him credit. A fair bit. We'll say it helped him out a fair bit. But fair play to both. I mean, fair play for picking him. I'm not going to disagree with Russell, but I will still give it to Ocon as my driver of the day. So, in terms of obviously how that looks up for the driver and constructors stand-ins for you guys. So, Charles Leclerc is still top with 104 points, with Max Verstappen second on 85, Sergio Perez in third with 66 points, George Russell in fourth with 59 points, Carlos Sainz in fifth with 53 points, Lewis Hamilton climbing above Lando Norris to get into sixth place, Valtteri Bottas into seventh place, Ocon in ninth place, and Magnussen finishing the top 10 with 15 points. Not a bad little stand in there.
I'm surprised though, Alonso's down.
Yeah,
I thought he'd be up.
I am surprised. I looked it up and was like, what, where is Alonso? I thought maybe this is a mistake by BBC, but apparently not. In terms of the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari lead the way with 157 points compared to Red Bull in second with 151, Mercedes in third with 95, and despite the woes, McLaren in fourth with 46, Alfa Romeo fifth with 31, Alpine sixth with 28, and then you have Alpha Tauri seventh, Haas eighth, Aston Martin ninth, and poor old Williams in 10th. But it's nice to see that everyone has points. That's always a benefit to see. So, yeah, that is the end of what is a wonderful stream. Obviously, next race is in 2 weeks, which is Barcelona, which will be nice because it'll be an afternoon. It means we don't have to do this late at night for us guys. It can be nice afternoon, evening, early evening stream, and hopefully more of you guys will come on and tune in rather than going to sleep, which I imagine everyone is doing on Sunday night. But it is what it is. Wayne, thank you for coming on once again.
Thank you, Matt, for letting me on, and thank you, KJ, for joining.
KJ, again, thank you for joining. Big up for Kevin, by the way. I definitely didn't tell him to say that.
That's Matt's burner account. I'm convinced. Kevin only complimenting Matt. But yeah, big up Wayne, big up Matt. Thank you for having me, as always. And yeah, man, people, remember who your champion is. Respect him. He's your tribal chief, man. Come on, Max. Come on.
Good performance, man.
No, we're not going to do that.
I've got to be a bit quicker with that. Well, it is what it is. I mean, yeah, big up to everyone that has tuned in today. A reminder, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you get this channel out to as many people as possible. Subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. We will be streaming for every race after qualifying and after the race. I think next week we will also do a stream. Me and Wayne will come up with an idea. KJ, hopefully Sadiq, and maybe Nick will join us to discuss a certain
couple of ideas. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
I have a couple of ideas as well, so we'll figure something out for you guys, and we'll keep you updated of what we will do for the video. But make sure you stay tuned next week for that. Um, and yeah, make sure you, obviously it's a new channel. We have 16 subscribers at the moment. We're hoping to get this up to 100 subscribers, hopefully by either the end of the month. So make sure you share this out to all your friends. Make sure you get into the comments, put a load of comments down. Let's debate what's going on, and we'll have a bit of fun. So make sure you stay tuned. This is Matt, Wayne, and KJ signing out. There you go. Goodbye.